Welcome back to the Becoming Conscious podcast. It's been quite a while, many months since the last podcast, and I'm excited to be back and bringing you a very special solo episode. So today we're going to be exploring a few themes: ambition, dedication, perseverance, resilience, and the overall general topic of advanced personal development. And so I've been working on this really interesting project the last 3 or 4 months. Me and a team of my closest friends have been building something called the Hero 100. And it arose out of this philosophy of what we want to see in the world, what we feel like is missing in the personal development, spiritual, transformational culture as of right now. And so in this episode, I'm going to be laying out the philosophical frameworks, the groundwork, and the foundation for what the Hero 100 was born out of. So in essence, we have been seeing a few themes pop up. One is that a lot of the personal development in the world seems to be beginner level. It's very easy to look up personal development techniques and to get introductions, beginner's guides, 101s, and so on and so forth. These are commonplace, but the thing that we're not really seeing is the advanced levels of personal development. The 202s, the 303s, the 404s, the month-long, multi-month-long, year-long, dedicated practice and focus periods to really take your life to the next level. What we've been noticing is that if you stick on the beginner level, you're going to get in the moment this feeling of healing and transformation. But then you're going to go right back down to your old baseline. And to raise your baseline and to increase your capacity in all dimensions of life: cognitive capacity, emotional capacity, interpersonal capacity, and spiritual capacity, it takes a lot of training. It's not something that you can go through in a week. It takes months, years, decades even. And this has frustrated me as well as my co-creators at Phoenix Culture. This has really frustrated me because it's frustrating because we want to see people really getting serious about this work, and I have this sense that there are so many people out there that are also having the same frustration of wanting to really go to the next level and commit oneself, to really commit oneself and go all in and fully surrender to the process, and to really taking things to the next level, but not really being able to do that. And I'm not talking about another beginner's level course on breath work or meditation or some shit. I'm talking about half of a year to a decade of serious work. So that's what I've been thinking about. How do we build that? Where is that in the culture? Is it? There are some examples. You see some places like the Monastic Academy up in Vermont doing some really serious meditative Zen-like sits. A lot of the serious work in our culture, in my opinion, seems to be in this Zen context. The Zen school of practice seems to have a lot of people that are really committed to the work of spiritual growth, sitting down and meditating until insights come. And if no insights come, to just continue sitting down and meditating no matter what. And this is the ethos that we've been thinking about. We want to take the Zen-like full commitment to awakening and bring it to all aspects of life, to bring it to self-awareness. Imagine journaling for an hour a day, every day for a year. It's not an easy commitment, but the level of self-awareness that you would have after that would be pretty unreal. You can think about this with anyone, with relationships. Imagine spending half an hour to an hour of dedicated relationship time each day to deepen the connection that you have with your closest friends. That would really take things to the next level. And so that's what we're trying to build with this Hero 100 challenge. This is just the start. We're running a 100-day challenge with 6 challenges. We're trying to mimic it after the 75 hard. We're trying to mimic it after these ultra marathon-esque challenges. You know, you see a lot of people in like CrossFit really taking their exercise, their health, their personal health to the next level. And we want to try to create something like that, but for the inner dimensions, for emotional resilience, the same way that people in CrossFit like go all out, almost like psycho mode to their health, doing these crazy challenges, like running miles upon miles and doing hundreds of pull-ups and crazy cardio and crazy fitness, crazy calisthenics. We want to create these same calisthenics for the inner world. We want to create a step-by-step progression of here's how you go through the difficult work step by step of building emotional resilience in the same way that someone's health at the end of a CrossFit session is going to be improved. We want to create this long-term emotional resilience where you're like lifting your like emotional weights almost. And this ethos is in the culture. I watch videos like from this YouTube channel, The School of Life, all the time. And that when Elaine de Botton, the narrator for this YouTube channel and for this business, talks, I can feel the ethos of like building emotional resilience, like emotional like weights, like emotional weightlifting. I can feel this ethos, but then I don't know how to do it. And this is what we're building. And so there's another component of it that I want to bring in here. And that is the component of showing up in the world. Right? As I've been trying to increase my capacity to show up for my quote unquote work, I'm noticing that I get stressed super easily, I get super anxious, feels like I'm on the edge of burnout quite often. And like the capacity isn't quite there. And I'm just like pushing this edge, but the edge isn't really moving no matter how long I push it for. And I believe that there are some inner protocols and long-term developmental commitments that we can make that can push that edge, that can increase that capacity to show up in the world. You know, if you want to show up in the world and you suddenly get the opportunity to speak at a conference or at a TED Talk or something, but then all of a sudden you just like shut down and it like feels totally out of reach. That's what we're working with. We're working with like, why did you shut down? What is that fear? What is that identity level belief that you have about yourself? Why did it stop you from doing that? And really, this work is about long-term commitment to unpacking who we think we are and how that influences our experience of life day by day. If there's anything I've noticed over the past few years, it's the utter difficulty of changing the beliefs that I have about myself. Tried months and months of therapy. Therapy, I really have been enjoying because it does kind of have this long-term ethos to it. You're going to see a therapist every single week. And if you're committed, you can potentially see a therapist for years on end, which I feel like is the ethos that we're trying to build here. But in the same way, if you go to therapy and you don't apply any of that outside of therapy, it's not really going to help. And so it feels like the way that you build this internal resilience is through showing up every single day, whether you want to show up or not. You know, a lot of the critiques that I see, these very valid critiques that I see of the kind of spiritual new age hippie crowds, it's like there's a lot of gems in these kind of modern spiritual communities. There's a lot of gems of like, here's how you process emotions. Here's how you relate to yourself differently in a more meaningful way. Here's how you experience different states of consciousness through meditation or psychedelics, or here's how you devote yourself and feel this sense of like sacredness. But the critique of that is that all this is good, but these communities, it seems like they lack discipline, like they lack endurance, like they lack stamina, they lack long-term strategic implementation. There's a book that I read a few years back that has had a profound impact on my life. It was called The War of Art, a play on the art of war, play on words. It was called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. And he really articulates the work. Like, what is the work? What is spiritual work? What is emotional work? And he really articulates what separates amateurs from pros in the work. And that is the resistance. Everyone feels this level of like, oh, I don't really want to do this right now. I don't really feel like doing this. I don't really feel like writing. He says it specifically in terms of art, you know, painting, writing, filmmaking. If you're a filmmaker, a writer, painter, probably experience like sitting down to create art. You're like, oh, I don't want to do this right now. But then if you're like me, you've had the experience of like, oh, I don't want to do this right now. Some days you'll just give up. That's the amateur move. The pro move is, oh, I don't want to do this. Okay, well, I'm just going to do it anyway. See what happens. And then you start doing it and insights start happening. Things start getting connected. It's like, whoa, where did all these come from? And that is what separates the pro from the amateur. And that's what we're trying to cultivate here, is that way of relating to resistance of, hey, I really don't want to show up and meditate and journal and do my creative practice right now, but I'm just going to anyway, because I know that this is the direction that I want to move in. And so if you're interested in cultivating this, come join us. We are starting on April 1st, 2023. We're starting this 100-day challenge, which entails 20 minutes of meditation, 20 minutes of journaling, 3-minute cold shower, intermittent fasting every single day, donating one item a day, sort of minimalist challenge, and your own ritual. For me, I'm going to commit to writing 500 words a day, finishing a book by the end of the challenge. So if you're interested, join us. There'll be a link in the description of this podcast. The challenge is called the Hero 100 Challenge. It's going to be epic. Thank you so much for listening. And I hope you enjoyed the first podcast I've recorded quite a few months. I haven't recorded. I've been busy building, busy creating, busy grinding, building the foundation, financial, emotional, spiritual, interpersonal foundations to really take off. Doesn't feel like much has been happening in my life, but it feels like I've been really planting some seeds, watering those seeds, tending to those seeds. They're starting to sprout. And so, thanks so much for listening, and see you on the other side.